Alexandru Berceanu. I'm a teacher at the Master from UNATC IL Caragiale, Bucharest, interactive technologies for performing arts and media. And I'm very honored to present you our students, Sebastian Comănescu and Octavian Albu, who recently participated in a very special edition of Ars Electronica 2020. The festival was a global festival with locations all over the world. More than 140 countries participated, each organizing a garden in this Kepler Garden. But they were very lucky to be actually traveling to Linz and be part of the Wilde States section, which was curated by the University of Art and Design from Linz, and each of them participated with work developed in during their student times. So they will share with us their experience at Ars Electronica in this special edition of the festival.
I don't know. This is like an overview if anybody wants to read what I just said and then like get more into it. And I tried to use like minimal technologies, more minimalistic technologies that are accessible to people, such as like a microphone and a camera, because I want them to be accessible for other people to further develop on them. And the programs that I used are like Ableton Live and Max MSP. I can just like show you something from the presentation itself that I did there, because that would be more, I don't know, that would be a cooler way to like introduce it better. And let's see, I don't know how to full screen it, but I'll try. Let's see.
So basically I'm coming from the punk scene in Bucharest, and I've always been fascinated by the violence in a non-violent way that takes place in the performances there. So, for example, people are like jumping on one another, or like I don't know, they're doing some mosh pit and stuff like that. And I tried to think how to integrate technology into this whole concept. And I think the nice part of the Corona thing that happened is that people, I think it could become an outlook for people to interact with, because you cannot be so close physically to one another, right? So basically what I did is I have a camera and a microphone that I use them in an unorthodox way. So the camera maps out the movement of the people, and depending on their position, that movement synthesizes the sound of the performance itself. And the microphone basically is a pitch to MIDI converter, which means that you can basically shout or sing into that microphone, kind of in the same style at hardcore punk shows where you grab the mic and sing with the singer, and you're allowed to do that. And it converts it into a virtual instrument that could be anything. And I really like the simplicity of this of this act, because I want this technology to kind of be accessible and for kids to use it. That's why I chose a microphone and a camera for it, because I think they're like super accessible objects that anyone could use, any artist could use. So that's my thing.
Wait, sorry, I'm just gonna stop presenting for a second just to like turn back. Yeah, the camera that I'm using is just like a standard webcam, and the microphone that I'm using is like just a standard microphone that you could find for like maximum $50 or $100 on the internet. If you do this type of performance, if your environment changes, you need to like map everything differently, especially with the camera, because you need to take into account how the light shines inside the room. You need to take into account a lot of other factors as well. So that took me like, I think 2 days of preparation to get everything right. But once I did, like, I just fixed the camera on the wall, and everything was fine. So this is like one part of the. eye movements were mapped onto a delay effect, and the delay shift or the delay time was mapped according to my vertical position, and I was like in real time moving that delay knob basically, which is a parameter used in music a lot of time, and it kind of had an immediate effect, and that was what I was looking for. But as you can see, here it was very bright in the room, so I had to like change the settings right before the performance, as you will see in the next video, because it was dark.
How do you feel about bringing punk into a gallery?
I mean, it was a nice experience, as you can see in the next video, but I still think it's pretty alienating, and I'm not sure. And I mean alienating in the sense that the public or the audience didn't quite participate as much as I wanted to, but these could be due to the fact that there was a limited amount of people who were allowed to be inside, and yeah, it was all pretty restrictive, but it was fun. Like I at least I think I will demonstrate in the next video that it's possible to get to a much larger scale, probably when the whole pandemic thing ends. Come on. So yeah, that's the thing. I expected more people to come, but I expected this before the pandemic hit. I was imagining something like 50 people, and probably I would have used multiple cameras if that was the case, and I would have adapted it differently. But I don't know. It kind of worked. This was my experience at Ars Electronica this year. At the big exhibition, there were some cool moments where I don't know, they used AI to play Mozart, to replay him. So basically an AI got fed a lot of Mozart pieces, and he was playing Mozart, but not really. It was a different kind of Mozart, and it was pretty cool because they used an actual piano, and you can see how it was performed live at the same time. And I don't know, yeah. And another interesting thing that I've seen was this drum machine that that was mapped to like weird objects. So it wasn't playing, it was playing some like toys and stuff like that, instead of like digitally sampling something, which was pretty cool in of itself.
So
Yeah,
I understand that basically for you, the main field of interest is in sound and
yeah,
in
probably that's right. Yeah.
creating sound, and I understand that for you is very important, even if it's a technological performance, to have a type of emotion. Could you extend a bit on this importance, or how do you think emotion can rise from the use of technology? Because you put, like in your example with the microphone, you put a sound which comes from you, which is real, but then the algorithm, which actually is the instrument, is something very digital, and basically I think it's a mathematical process more than a natural one.
Well, I have three ways of explaining this. I think I'm gonna try and cover them all up. For example, what I meant when I said about other people installations was that they were using a lot of geometry inside their projects, and when I see that, that's like telling to me that they're not actually trying to convey something deeper than abstract forms or you know just maths basically, and how math functions, and which is pretty cool in of itself. But this is not like what I'm interested in seeing all the time. In my case, I think the aspect of music that made that technology and mathematical processes that were in the background function was that it was all done in real time. So while the music, which automatically conveys some emotions, does some mathematical abstraction in real time with other people connecting to it, there's so many layers and factors where this kind of creates some unity in the act itself, and that unity is translated further into emotion, you could say, because you're pushed to do that. For example, people that came there and danced, they wanted to see that effect happening to them, and they were kind of moved by the music and by the curiosity of how that would interact. But if you're seeing like a basic mathematical prototype unfolding, such as in other installations, you're not seeing much. I don't know. This is like I think music is a background in of itself that conveys emotion, and by using technology, I just augmented it even further. Can only recognize one person, but it's pretty easy to develop it further and recognize multiple bodies. But I don't think it's bodies in of itself, but it's the head. This is what I aimed for. So because it's an overhead camera, you can clearly distinguish the background from a floor and somebody moving his or her head around. So
because I think somebody jumping like this, and
but that's also, like, it doesn't need to be the head necessarily. It just needs to be the head is the best idea that the program could take from what you're showing, but also the hand. If you're like moving it slightly further from your body and you have your head out of the picture, then it takes the hand. So it's not it's the body in of itself kind of, but the head is the best example you could feed the program to recognize.
But if a dog would go through the space, then
Same.
it would be the same. It's very inclusive because it's actually about shapes traveling into the space.
It's about contrast. It's about contrast from static and moving objects, basically.
Firstly, must say that I am deeply saddened by Octavian's perspective on geometry and maths, because that's what I like about installations. So
the world is very diverse, and we have sound guys, live performance guys, architects,
obviously. And the best ideas kind of work when these types of people meet.
We can, sorry to interrupt you, we can do a live stream debate if you want to.
Sure, let's schedule it. Maybe a stream. Okay, can you see the screen?
Yes.
Yeah. My work was called Quantum Polythopes. The final product looked like this, and it's a project that I developed during my first semester, and then reiterated during the second one. So the whole thing of working with objects means you have to come back to the drawing board and redo them until they're perfect. And yeah, just to do a quick rundown. So in January, at the end of the first semester at Interactive Technologies, at the Interactive Technologies Masters, the project kind of looked like this. So I just took some very basic materials, some foam core boards and some 3D printed connectors, and whipped up this prototype. But this was making it was actually a learning experience because it kind of had structural problems. So this was the first thing in the workshop. And then in March, when I displayed it at UNATC, I had to add a metal rod to make it more structurally sound. But yeah, overall the experience was kind of like learning by doing, right? And for Ars Electronica, I kind of got back to designing things and used digital fabrication methods to make it out of composite metal sheets. So basically the drawings are fed from the computer to the milling machine, and they are cut from flat sheets of metal, which is then kind of folded. Obviously, friends are a good thing to have, because I had to solder and connect a lot of wires, and I kindly asked some friends to just help me do that in a reasonable amount of time. And this is how it kind of ships on site. So you have each ray, let's say, which is separate, and the core with the structure, and then, or I don't know, and maybe like this. So this one is the one that was on display at UNATC's garden in Bucharest, and this one was the one that was shipped to Linz. That it has on each of the ends, it has an infrared light sensor, which when obstructed, it kind of tells the computer that somebody is touching the star. Both of the stars, the one in Linz and the one in Bucharest, were synchronized, and they were kind of pulsating in the same on the same metronomic. The people kind of looking at them were influencing the rhythm and the pulsation of the stars. Each star was connected to a laptop, which had a live stream running. It kind of works. It generally only needs a hug when you get technical difficulties. You just keep calm and carry on. So the one in Bucharest was outdoors, and it was in a natural setting, right? So this was in Linz at the Wilde States Exhibition. In which it had its own room. It was kind of great. So just to be clear, these two were live. It's not the same star in two different places, but there are two different objects in two different locations. So each one had a laptop which had a live stream of the other one, and the whole point of the project was to hint at synchronicity between remote locations. And that's where the geometry and the math behind it comes from. So quantum polythopes thinks about some primordial geometric shape that can be composed to actually form some sort of lattice that ties everything in the universe together. So it's about finding a common, or trying to illustrate a metaphor for a common geometry that can be found everywhere. I've been to Ars Electronica not as an artist, but as a participant, as the general public last year in 2019. And well, last year it was everything I imagined it to be. So this year, like, aside from all the panic and the extra measures, it was kind of okay. I did not get to see the Kepler's Garden main exhibition, but I don't know, it kind of felt really nice to be participating in the festival, and to like you really like felt like you were a part of the European community in what wants to be the digital capital, the capital of digital art. These are some of the exhibits. Uncertain Facing was a work about mapping real and imagined faces on a random 3D geometry. Portrait of a Nation were some particle simulations that were based, so there were practically data visualizations regarding the events in Los Angeles this year. Nothing is known, everything is imagined, and were 2 blocks of marble that were mapped with waves, like affection laboratory for a migrant plant, a mechanism with a hand that kind of tends to a plant. Black box, which tackles the idea of surveillance, and was a script that was running on a website which presented a mapping of pictures. A bundle of echoes, which was a visual diary. One because we kind of did similar something similar in the first semester, where we had the workshop and we kind of proposed an installation, like the whole all of us, through a set of devices like contact microphones and other types of recording devices. It processed the sound that the plant made when you tap a palm tree or brush the bush or touch the succulent there, and it would all turn into a tune. So this one was one of the few physical installations. There was another guy into the festival. I refrained myself from posting other pictures than the ones from the installation, but it kind of surprised a really nice moment where our new media installations crashed. So this is just me walking in on Octav, who just states, "Oh, it crashed." So it happens to all of us, and then it kind of sort of become our tagline. Everybody says it's crashed while waiting for everything to reboot. This again, I really like this video for the nature of the way in which he holds his hands. Yeah, it's almost like a prayer. I find it very poetic.
Like, please don't crash.
What?
The prayer is please don't crash.
Please don't crash, exactly. Yeah, one of my favorite appropriate response by a German artist, where you would stand on this altar in a praying kind of ritual way, and an AI would mash up together quotes and inspirational text into a personalized message. Mine was natural power itself is but a bush. Okay, so the exhibition at the OK Center was filled again with a lot of digital installations. This was really a really cool mapping of scenes from the New York subway, and a lot of physical works that kind of showed a lot of technical skill and high value execution. This machine asked you to fill a questionnaire, and then you were issued a number, and it was like preparing a perfume sample based on the answers you gave. This kind of blew my mind. It kind of worked flawlessly, and it's a brilliant idea, and everything looks spectacular. So I think this is it. Overall, it was amazing.
Thank you. Your work and Octav's work, and also the work you presented from the students, they all seem very technical, and they are, most of them, very technical. So Octavian, what's your background on technology, or did you study polytechnics? What's your background?
No, my background is in philosophy and politics. I have no technical background at all. All that I've studied was like YouTube tutorials on sound, and then I developed on my technical skills at the master.
I have a background in architecture, but I've been always doing DIY stuff. So a little bit of coding here, there, a little bit of working with materials. So yeah, I actually kind of do have a background which is like technically oriented. So there are practically focused courses which include creative coding and sound design. But there are also courses that either go full theoretical or mix them together, such as digital arts research and narrative structures in digital media. There are also optional courses, space design, which is obviously not related to outer space, but to the space that is around us. Right now we're doing a course called Interactive Art and the Body, and interactive music systems. Which
you are at the University for Theater and Film. You are studying a master program which has a very complicated name, and I'm curious on what do you think you are becoming?
I'm a designer and a new media artist, new media designer, right? Computational designer, which is a designer who employs computational method, creative technologist. And for example, right now, creative technologist is a job. So right now, I'm not sure what I'm gonna be when I'm done, because I kind of I design stuff, so I'm a designer. I guess I would ideally want to start my own studio.
I like the fact that I never known what to become, but like this master kind of offered me the possibility to, I don't know, to like expand on things that I didn't think it was possible before. Like I didn't think I could yet ever use coding. I'm a producer, just producing music in interesting ways. And further than that, I never thought that like studying interactive technology could link my background in philosophy and politics. And this is like what really helped me put it into practice in a way, because most of the installations that I've developed during this master course had a political edge to it, and it was pretty interesting to like just use art and technology to like um, exploit any interest that I have in exploring something, whether it would be into a political background that I still have, or whether it would be into music that I did at Ars Electronica and performances more specifically.
What is your perspective on the Romanian audience? Is it an audience interested? Is it just something strange?
It's like that weird, quirky thing that you kind of enjoy, but you don't know exactly what it's called. Because honestly, like telling somebody you do new media art, they're gonna just frown and say new media art. What's that?
Yeah, especially because it seems it seems to a lot of people that have visited the exhibitions and that have to do with technology, that they're like absolutely new things when they're like been happening for some years in Europe and in other places. So they have this sense of like new discovery of fascination with things that is pretty cool. So I'm just interested in my own subculture and in people that want to join this like I don't know, punk community that I'm in. I'm not like much into this bringing into the mainstream. It's just like a tool for me to develop further on communities that I actually associate myself with.
We should take into account that and work towards like disseminating this type of thing, both as practitioners and as cultural institutions.
I'm trying to open a space that that is not tied to any government institution or any private interest, and it's just like a community place for people with a shared interest that could exhibit there, that they could perform there, and that I don't know, that they could just use their artistic impetus to showcase whatever they want and feel there. Filaret 16 or Filaret 16.
Good, thank you so much. Say bye. Bye.
Thank you.
Goodbye.